In collaboration with the Alameda County Bar Association, this is Love Thy Lawyer, where we talk with members of the ACBA about their lives and legal careers. I'm Louis Goodman, the host of the LTL podcast, and yes, I'm a member of the Alameda County Bar Association. She is the Chief Assistant District Attorney of Alameda County. She has prosecuted hundreds of serious and violent felonies, including murder, sexual assault, child molesting, robbery, and carjacking. She has headed a cold case DNA team and supervised teams of prosecutors. She is the co-founder and president of the Asian American Prosecutors Association and a member of the California District Attorneys Association. Annie Esposito, welcome to the Alameda County Bar Association and the Love Thy Lawyer podcast.
Thank you, Lou. I'm so happy to be here.
I am delighted to have you here. You have had a fantastic career, and I want to talk to you about it a little bit. Tell us right now, where are you?
I am at the Renee C. Davidson Courthouse on the 9th floor, the historical building. My office is right across from the District Attorney Nancy O'Malley's office, and in her office is Earl Warren's actual desk.
What are your duties now as Chief Assistant District Attorney?
I provide a lot of support for the District Attorney. It is really in charge of operations. And so operations runs from personnel to helping and assisting with what the attorneys need in terms of their prosecution of their cases, to it's just the operation of the DA's office.
How long have you been with the District Attorney's office?
21 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Where are you from originally?
Well, I was born in Taiwan, and I came to this country when I was 5. And we settled in San Francisco. Then when I was 12, we moved to Fremont, but I've been in Alameda County since I was 12 years old.
Did you go to high school in Fremont?
I did, but I did not finish high school. So when I was about 15 and a half, my mom got sick. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia. My dad lost his job, so I quit high school, and I've been working full-time since I was about 15 and a half.
What did you do when you were 15 and a half for work?
I worked for about 12 hours as a hostess, restaurant hostess and waitress. Then I quit that job because I soon realized that they were not paying me legally because it was under minimum wage. Then I went and found a job, and I was working as in an import-export company in their inside sales rep for Japanese auto parts, and worked there until that's where I met my husband, and then got married when I was 18. And then I decided to go back to school and law school, and this is where I am.
So did you get some sort of a high school diploma?
I took the GED when I was 16.
Okay. And then where did you go to college?
I went to community college at San Jose City College for about a semester. Then I transferred to Diablo Valley College in Contra Costa County. And then I went to Cal Berkeley, so UC Berkeley, transferred there when I was a junior, working the whole time. And so I was a commuter student, never really got involved with the campus, which is too bad because it's such a beautiful campus. Then I went to Golden Gate University School of Law as a nighttime student, part-time for 4 years. That was brutal.
Well, law school is always brutal. Did you go directly? Did you go directly from Cal to Golden Gate, or did you take some time off?
I took some time off. I had to save some money up, and so I worked for about, I think I took about 3 years off.
And what did you do during that 3-year period of time?
I worked in the appraisal industry I also worked in the stock brokerage industry, and I also got my real estate license to be a mortgage broker. So did quite a bit, but then I realized I really wanted to do something I thought was more meaningful.
So presumably that means that you started thinking about being a lawyer. So let me ask you this, sort of a two-part question. When did you first start thinking about being a lawyer? And then when did you actually apply to law school?
I actually thought about being a lawyer back when I was in community college. It was a professor who asked, it was a speech class that I took, and he asked me what I wanted to do. And at that time, I thought I wanted to be a journalist. And he asked me, well, have you thought about law school? And that's when I thought about being a lawyer. And then I did research about what kind of law. I knew I wanted to do something where I actually can make a difference and help people and also to try cases. I like the courtroom setting. And so it was just financial reasons that it took me longer to get to law school. And I knew I wanted to be a DA going to law school.
Really?
Yes. I went to law school to be a DA.
What made you think about criminal prosecution as a career even before you were in law school?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with perhaps my background, my childhood, growing up with a lot of domestic violence in my childhood and recognizing that my mom had no one there for her. And so I wanted to do something where I can be there for someone.
What did your friends and family think and say when you told them that you want to be a lawyer, you want to go to law school, you want to be a prosecutor?
They were really supportive. They were really happy for me. And I think that this profession is a very honorable profession. And they were so proud of me. And they are still so proud of me.
As well they should be.
Thank you.
When you got out of Golden Gate, did you immediately go to the Alameda County District Attorney's Office?
Yes, I did. I came here for Alameda County was definitely one of the first, if not the first, DA's offices that hire from summer law clerks. And we had paid internships for the summer clerkship program. So it's a wonderful program. The law clerks actually get to try cases. And I think we were the first in the state to do that. And so I was part of the summer law clerk program.
When you got hired on as a deputy district attorney, what sort of work did you start doing and where did you start doing that?
Well, we all start off in misdemeanors. So we all have to try your DUIs and misdemeanor batteries and thefts. And I remember trying a case as a misdemeanor deputy, and it was a battery on a professor at UC Berkeley. And it was during a protest. So it was a protest case / battery case. And so it was really something else. There were a lot of protesters in the courtroom itself.
It always seems that the best stories come out of the misdemeanor departments.
Yeah, there are a lot of good stories.
Now, you later moved into trying felony cases, trying very serious cases. How did that go?
It was obviously a learning experience, right? We're constantly learning. And I think as professionals and practitioners, you have to keep learning. And we have some of the most amazing trial lawyers here who when I was on trial staff, the first time on felony trial staff, some of my mentors were people like Daryl Stallworth and Matt Gold, and just these amazing attorneys. And so I feel extremely lucky and fortunate that I was able to learn from some of these generous and talented attorneys. And I will never forget, I also learned from judges too. I will always say that I don't say this very often, but I loved this man, Judge Al. He has taught me more about being a well-rounded attorney and a well-rounded person in the legal profession than anyone has ever done for me. Just watching him, I was in awe of that man. He was amazing, and he's taught me so much about patience, and I am forever indebted to him.
Now, you've been in the district attorney's office for over 20 years. It's the only legal job you've ever had. So there must be something about it that you find really compelling. I'm hoping you could share with us what it is that you like so much about being a prosecutor and being in the Alameda County DA's office.
I've alluded to the fact that obviously it's feeling like we're doing something good every day. And it's not, there's sometimes it's tangible, but there's a lot of the intangibles. And I love the camaraderie that I have with my fellow prosecutors within the office, the DA's office, but I also love the camaraderie I share with members of the defense bar. One of the people that I absolutely adored was Jim Geller. And so he has taught me a lot about how to be a fair and reasonable prosecutor. And there's just that I have to say the Alameda County practitioners, there's just so many talented people and amazingly intellectuals that I think it's that kind of connection that you have with people, because criminal law, people are drawn to criminal law, is the human interest, the relationship that we establish and we have with each other. And that's why that keeps me and so many of us stay in the office or stay in this type of practice.
How is actually working as a deputy district attorney, assistant district attorney, actually met or differed from your expectations about it?
It's met my expectations in terms of that it's never boring. So I knew doing this job, I didn't want to be, no offense to anyone in civil, but I did not want to just be behind the desk and actually just write papers all day long and write and do research all day long. I do research and I do write, but there's so much more involved in being a DA. And I think what I did not expect is just how much more public interaction we actually have and how much community serving that really is entailed with being a prosecutor. And we are a public servant. And I think there's been a lot of emphasis earlier on, and when I first became a DA 20-something years ago, there's a lot of emphasis about the art of trial, the art of prosecution, but as being the role of prosecution and the role of a prosecutor evolves, there's so much more community service involved as well.
Answer this question one way or the other or both. What do you think's the best advice you've ever received? And what advice would you give to a young attorney starting out?
The best advice I received was listen more and talk less. That's hard for attorneys. It's hard for lawyers. But if we can just listen more, we actually can learn so much more. And if we talk less, we may not get ourselves in some of the trouble that sometimes we get into.
Yeah, we should all exercise our right to remain silent more.
Yes, absolutely. I think silence is absolutely a not enough used skill. So that is the best advice I ever got. And it was from Judge Aldaluki. But the advice I would also give to young attorneys, don't burn bridges. This is a small world, so don't burn bridges.
Do you think the legal system is fair?
I think the legal system aims to be fair.
I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. What's your family life like, and how has practicing law affected that?
Well, I've been married 35 years. And so obviously it's my husband has been my rock. So I could not do this job without him. We have a daughter. She's 18 now. She's a freshman at UCLA. Go Bruins, even though I'm a Bears. But I have to say there were sacrifices because of the job. I think people don't realize how much work is entailed in trying cases. The trial DAs in our office, the PX deputies, are absolutely some of the most dedicated public servants and put in so many hours in preparing these cases. What happened to me when I was in the middle of a really complicated trial case, murder case, and my youngest sister was diagnosed with brain cancer, and I could not leave to go be by her side, and because I was in trial. And so that is not unusual. That has happened to many of us, where we have to put aside our own personal struggles and whatever we're going through because we are so dedicated, and the public and the community and the victim deserve our absolute 100% effort. And so those are behind the scenes sacrifice that many people do not know about.
What sort of recreational pursuits do you have that you use to kind of clear your head a little bit after being in court, being in the office, being in trial?
Well, if anyone who knows me, they would know I love to shop. So if I weren't doing this as a DA, because there's always that practical and pragmatic side of me, but there's another side of me that's a little bit more artistic that I would love to delve into some kind of fashion, right? So yeah, shopping, but obviously that's not the only thing. I mean,
Can we just call that retail therapy?
I love that, retail therapy. Let's go with it.
How would you define success?
I think if you have serenity and peace in your life, then there's success.
Let's say you and your husband came into some real money, a few $1 billion. What, if anything, would you do differently in your life?
I think I want to do something to help children and hunger. Because if you don't have enough food to eat, there's nothing you can do after that.
Okay. Is there anything that you want to talk about that we haven't discussed before I open it up to the three other people who are here who may have a question or a comment?
Can't think of anything else. I'm open to any suggestions.
Jason Leong, do you have a question for Annie Esposito?
Sure. Thank you, Louis, and thank you, Annie, for coming to this program today. I know, Annie, one of the assignments you were recently involved in and have been involved in is working in the Special Response Unit to address some of the anti-Asian targeted crimes in and around the county. And for me, that hit particularly close to home. What might you suggest for people who sort of share perhaps a sense of outrage at some of the conduct that has been targeted towards Asians recently in the last few years?
Thank you, Jason, for that question. I shared the outrage as well, being Chinese American, and it hurts. I think bottom line is we're all in pain about that, and because it brings up with a lot of the our personal struggles and stories growing up. I've encountered I'm sure as you have, Jason, growing up where we've been made fun of and teased about the foods that we eat, perhaps the languages that we speak, and also to not because we want to be treated differently. It's because we actually want to be acknowledged, that more than anything else. I mean, Jason, wouldn't you agree, is that oftentimes we feel overlooked. We feel like that word, because part of our culture is that we don't like to draw attention to ourselves. We don't like to discuss our struggles. And so it's, in some ways, we consider it shameful that we talk about our struggles. And so if we can acknowledge that we just don't want to be overlooked and as well in this country.
Annie, I'd like to follow up on that. What has your experience been over the years in terms of the Alameda County District Attorney's Office? It seems to me that it has become a far more diverse place of employment. And I'm wondering if you'd comment on that.
We are. I mean, I think it's a learning process, certainly. And I feel like we're much more diverse in terms of race, ethnicity, gender than we ever have been in the history of this. But it's also, we're also diverse in terms of background as well. And we want to be able to have socioeconomic backgrounds that are reflective of the communities that we serve. Taylor
Mowdy?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Lou, for holding this event. Annie, for giving us your time. Fascinating background story. Truly, it was a privilege to hear that. And I thank you. And even, too, an amazing job and a place to be at, just feet away from that desk. I have just a general shoot question as a relatively new attorney. What advice would you give to new criminal defense attorneys? What are common mistakes you might see in old and new defense attorneys, pitfalls to avoid, miscalculations to make? Any advice to kind of avoid burning those bridges? Because I do see that Alameda County is a bit of a small world, and I would hate to, stumble out the gate.
Taylor, first of all, I know you and I really like you. So I don't see you as one of those people who's going to burn bridges. You just don't seem to have that personality at all, but you're very personable. I think, but that's a good question. I think it applies to all attorneys, not just defense attorneys, but prosecutors as well. When I train young DAs, and this is coming from someone who made the mistakes when I was a young DA. And it took someone like Judge DeLucchi pull me aside and say, well, Annie, this, that may make sense. You may do that, but look at the big picture here. And so it is when we talk about listen more and talk less, I don't mean that don't talk. I just mean that listen to what people have to say. Listen to your witnesses, what they have to say. Listen to what your opponent, the opposing counsel has to say. Listen to what your supervisor has to say. Listen to what other people have to say before you form an opinion. And so I think if we can try, and we can be very strong advocates, this is an adversarial system, but we don't have to be adversaries.
Annie, if a young person in law school had an interest in getting into the Alameda County District Attorney's Office summer clerk program, how do they go about doing that?
Well, through their law school, because we conduct a lot of office on-campus interviews. And so if you are unable to contact anyone from your law school, just contact us directly, either to Mr. Nieto or to me directly. But we are really trying to increase our recruitment efforts.
Annie Esposito, thank you so much for joining us today at the Alameda County Bar Association and on the Love Thy Lawyer podcast. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Lou. Thank you so much for having me and to the Alameda County Bar. It's been a privilege. It's actually fun, too.
That's it for today's edition of Love Thy Lawyer in collaboration with the Alameda County Bar Association. Please visit the lovethylawyer.com website where you can find links to all of our episodes. Also, please visit the Alameda County Bar Association website at acbanet.org, where you can find more information about our support of the legal profession, promoting excellence in the legal profession, and facilitating equal access to justice. Special thanks to ACBA staff and members Kaylin Dalen, Saeed Randall, Hadassah Hayashi, Vincent Tong, and Jason Leong. Thanks to Joel Katz for music, Bryan Matheson for technical support, and Tracy Harvey. I'm Louis Goodman.
People feel secure, then they have serenity, they have peace, and then they have real joy.